Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FinTech Combine. I am your host, Kris Kovacs, and this is the series where we talk with and sometimes about community-based institutions, their digital and business transformation projects, and we meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and FinTechs that make it all possible. We're certainly glad you're here today. This is a very special episode of the FinTech Combine, not just because we're going to speak with Mark Price, the CTO at AKUVO, about the wonderful things they're bringing to the market, but this right here is our 50th episode. It would be completely impossible to say all the thank yous that we need to for everyone's support, for their great comments, for Anson Beckler-Jones, our producer and editor who makes all of us look so good. Thank you, brother, for that. We really appreciate the support. Every like, every share, every subscription to our podcast has made this possible. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of our community. Here's to 50 more. We'll see you soon. Anson, cue the music. Well, Mark, I want to welcome you to the FinTech Combine today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Kris, for having me.
I am so excited about what you guys are building at AKUVO. But before we get to that, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you became the CTO for AKUVO.
Funny story. So I actually ended up getting into this whole world almost right out of school. So I graduated. I was working in the Philadelphia area for a medical company. And I got a random call from a guy who knew Jay, the CEO of AKUVO, and said, hey, Jay's starting a company. You want to be a part of it? This was in 1998. So this was when, Web 2.0 was just getting started and everything. And he's starting up this custom application development company. And, this call is like, hey, you want to be on board? Hey, I'm just out of school. No commitments, nothing weighing me down. Let's do this. So I joined up. And I spent the next 6 months trying to figure out the world of the financial space and how to build web applications. And so Jay put me and another guy on a plane, and we flew down to Charlotte to work with First Union Bank, our primary customer. And we would spend all day learning about trust systems, learning about trading applications. And then do you remember those red Rocks press books? And they were getting really techie now.
Yes.
Then we'd go back and we'd spend the evening trying to learn how to code active server pages from a red Rocks press book. And this can, we'd fly down at 6 a.m. Monday, fly back at 3 p.m. on Friday, work 100-hour weeks. And that's how I got into the world of application development, web app development. And along the way, that company turned into Accelerant, and we found that opportunity to build a web-based collection system. And turned that into a product, grew that to the point where we sold that company, and then went and kind of did our own thing for a few years. And then, Jay reached out and said, hey, I see an opportunity here. And so got the band back together, so to speak, and really found using modern technology, a way to do what we did before, but even better. So it's been a long ride, but I've had decades of experience in this whole FinTech space, especially collections.
I think I had the same red Rocks book.
You probably did.
For active server pages. That is awesome. So tell me a little bit about the journey, though. So, there's a fair number of folks who start in technology, right? Especially as programmers, who they want to continue to be technologists, continue to be programmers all along, right? At some point, you made the decision to step off into management. Doesn't mean you're still not coding some things, but you're stepping off into management. Talk to me a little bit about that. When did that happen, and how did you process that change in your journey?
Yeah, it kind of happened early on. When we were a tiny shop, me and another guy who's actually with AKUVO, we kind of built that original product. I coded quite a bit then, but I was very much hands-on with the business side, right, and understanding, what is collections? How do you guys work? What are your pain points? And, straddling that, understanding the business and how technology might solve that, that's my passion. And that's where I found I could be most effective. So while I was doing some coding there, my real passion and the skills I feel I have and the enjoyment I get out of work every day is really bridging that technology gap with the
Yeah.
business side. And so I just naturally kind of found my way into seeing how I could build teams that would take us there.
Tell us a little bit about what AKUVO does for those who aren't familiar with the product.
Yeah, so AKUVO is a cloud-based collections and risk platform. So we kind of have our operational product where we take a financial institution's accounts, we process those into our system, and then we'll create a collection strategy and automate that strategy around outbound communications, queuing up activities for collectors, and let them operationally manage their collections world. And then that's supplemented by our data world, where we're amassing a lot of data, where we can start to create scores and models and other things that help properly drive that collections process.
Mm-hmm. And it's early stage, late stage, post charge off. It's all aspects of collections. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right. Full cycle, all the way from cradle to grave, as I like to say, all the way from early stage collections on through the late stage specialty processing, like repossessions and bankruptcy, foreclosures, all the way through the charge off process until that account's been charged off.
What do you think the secret sauce is to AKUVO's success in this area, right? Because you guys are definitely the leader. You've got, as I understand it, almost 200 organizations now on the platform. What do you think the secret to the success is?
I think there's a bunch of things that have made us successful. I mean, number one, just purely technology wise, we had I like to say, the blessing of being able to build this in a cloud native solution right out of the gate. So we run in Azure. We kind of made that decision early on to go all in on Azure, and it's really benefited us. But we run cloud native. So, from a technology standpoint, no servers, no operating systems. It's running on highly scalable, highly performant platform components in Azure. And the speed at which we found ourselves able to develop and deploy our software was just light years beyond what it was when we did this before. And so certainly the ability to get the product to where it is today based on that technology is one thing. And the other thing that we've done here is the people at AKUVO have made it successful. And, I have an incredible management team. I know we're talking about AI, but to talk about people here for a moment, the people that run our operations are incredible. And the people that we've hired who directly interface with our customers have come from the industry. They're former collectors, former collection managers. They understand our customers. They understand how they work. They understand all the things they're dealing with in the early stage, late stage, specialty. So they're well-versed in our product. They're highly trained and tuned on how to make the AKUVO platform work best for our customers. And then they get to spend that time advising them and helping manage the system to make them most efficient.
Yeah, I definitely see that with your leadership team, right? Your leadership team is very attuned to what the customer wants, and I think that's super important. You mentioned AI. You were the first to say it. I did not. When I spoke to Jay last year, I think is the last time we touched base, he was telling me about Virtual Collector. Tell us about Virtual Collector and what that does for your clients and how you're thinking about building on that.
Yep. But we rolled out Virtual Collector a little over a year ago, and that is it's kind of, think of it like a member, an account holder facing extension of the AKUVO platform. So traditionally, our platform's been internally facing. So it's the collectors at the institution, it's the repossession specialist, the bankruptcy specialist doing work, and then they're making the outbound calls, right? They're interfacing with the delinquent account holder. Virtual Collector is an account holder facing digital portal. So what we did was we enabled outbound emails, outbound texts to have a personalized link in that email or text. And when the account holder gets that email or text and they tap that link, it takes them right into a personalized, branded digital portal, branded for the institution. So their logos, their colors, everything's customizable, even every word in Virtual Collectors, so that they can use their language, the way they speak to their account holders. They can actually work that into Virtual Collector. And then it enables the account holder to self-service their delinquency situation. So in that portal, they have options. They can create a promise so they can say, I don't know, I can't pay right now, but I know I can by the end of the month because I'm going to get some income then. And they can actually put that in. And in real time, that will create a promise in the collections platform where they can request a call at a specific day and time that works best for them. And then that actually schedules a call for the collector to make a call. When that day and time comes up, it comes right up in the queue for the collector. And then the account holder's waiting for them. Or they can do a payment. And so we've taken all of our integrated payment processors. They're integrated into Virtual Collector. And so if they're able to make a payment right there, they can actually process that with their the debit card of choice or ACH account number, routing number, and actually do the payment right there in Virtual Collector. So, it's the whole mantra here is, voicemails and texts and emails without any action. They're really nothing more than a passive reminder about your delinquency situation.
Yep,
So yeah, exactly. So our goal with Virtual Collector was find ways to empower the account holder to take action on their delinquency situation on their own.
Talk to me a little bit about the Virtual Collector interface. Is it a portal? Is it a conversational user experience? Because I would imagine you have a really unique test case where people who are many times not intentionally doing it but find themselves behind on their bills will go into the system for the first time having never used it before, right? It wasn't like they signed up with this institution because they wanted to use Virtual Collector. They find themselves using the system entirely new. So you've got a unique challenge when it comes to usability.
Oh yeah. It's as simple as it can be. We made it to where, there are very few things they have to click, very few forms or fields they have to fill out. It's a wizard approach. And so when they tap that link in their text and it runs on a desktop, it runs on mobile, looks great on both. When they end up going in, it talks to them. It says, hey, Kris, we're here to help. We noticed you're late on your auto loan in this amount. Here's some options you can take. And then it gives them very distinct options they can tap on. And then with just a few fields, it walks them through, making that payment or scheduling a payment arrangement. So we spend a lot of time on Virtual Collector, making sure it's super easy to use. I like to use, and we apply this methodology to our product as well for our internal users. I like to use this analogy of that should be iPhone-esque, right? No one ever has to train you on how to use an iPhone. People got an iPhone and immediately learned how to use it just by using it because it's that intuitive. And so that's kind of the thinking we have for our products, especially the account holder facing side, that it should just make sense. It should just be 100% intuitive and should require no training.
And I would imagine because you're deployed in Azure, you have the ability to learn from your deployments and make changes on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, one of the great things about being a cloud SaaS solution is we have all this data at our fingertips. And so we can see usage, we can see behavior, we know how our customers are using the product, we know how their customers, their account holders and members are using the product. So we're actually able to glean a whole lot of information out of that data that we collect and then act on that and react on that, right? And make tweaks and improvements as we see them using it to determine how we can do it better.
Awesome. What kind of impact has this had for your clients using the service?
Yeah, when we rolled this out, it was kind of this makes a lot of sense, but let's see, will the account holders engage with it, right?
Right.
I mean, because let's face it, they are delinquent members. It can be an embarrassing situation, an uncomfortable situation, but the key is most of the time they want to solve the problem, but they don't want to have to talk to someone to solve that problem. And that was the fundamental problem we were aiming to solve. But at the end of the day, the jury was out. So we built this, we did roll it out with a few pilot customers, and it definitely proved itself. And so I'll just give you numbers from last month because I actually just had to sample these the other day. So we have this running now. I think around 25 or so customers of ours are running this in a production mode. And in 1 month alone, we sent out over 345,000 links in text and emails,
Wow.
and it produces daily engagements and
Hmm.
daily engagements every hour of the day. And that was the most fascinating thing. We saw
Hmm.
promises being created at 5 a.m. We saw payments being taken at 2 a.m. It was whenever it made sense for the member
Very cool.
or the account holder to do their work. And at the end of the day, in the month of July alone, it cured over 385 million in balances
Hmm.
across our customers using it. And that accounts for more than 27% of the total recovery effort of all the collection teams. So if you think about
Wow.
that, that cured balance and that recovery effort is zero effort by any humans because it put the control
Yeah.
and the actionable capability in the
Yeah.
account holder's hands, and they actually took advantage of it.
Yeah, even if they did receive a notice or they received a message, they were able to act on it at 2 a.m., right?
Yeah, it's meeting them where they are, what channel makes sense, right?
Hmm.
Is it an email? Is it a text? And when they are. It might be the late shift. It might be the night shift and someone's coming off of that. And that's when they have the opportunity to evaluate,
Right.
oh, I got this text or this email. Well, let's go ahead and take care of this now. And even if they need to talk to someone, they can schedule that call for a time that works with them. So
That's
it's
great.
really worked out well from that perspective.
Were there any because of the sensitive data, right? You have both the status of the account, the to your point earlier, the potential embarrassment or by the individual who's didn't plan on being past due. Did you have to take any special measures to really think about how you gave access to that data or how you collected that data?
Yeah, so the data actually never leaves our cloud environment.
Hmm.
So the virtual collector is just another kind of front end to our cloud environment. And that application itself actually never shares any sensitive information
Hmm.
with the account holder. So the link itself is unique for them. The they're coming in and they're offering information about how to pay or
Hmm.
promises. They can't take any information out of virtual collectors. So it's
Okay.
effectively kind of a one-way street, which
Okay.
reduces that data leak risk considerably.
No, that's good. That's good. Um, so I know you are working on some additional AI things, right? Um, Talk to us a little bit about your approach to extending AI and using artificial intelligence inside AKUVO's platform. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did you set your goals? How did you set your kind of early gates to know you were headed in the right direction? Talk a little bit about your introduction of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, AI has just come fast and furious, hasn't it? I mean, we were talking about this the other day. It's been only a little over 2 years since Chat GPT became a
I
real
know.
thing amongst everyone. That's a very short time frame to think about when it first came out and where we are right now trying
Right.
actually leveraging the technology. So, over that time, we've had a lot of conversations at AKUVO, a lot of water cooler conversations, a lot of kind of discussions in the whiteboard over how we could start to use it. So it's really exciting to me now that it's materializing and that it's
Hmm.
becoming, it's coming to fruition for us. I'd outline it in three ways, really, that we kind of established how we could leverage AI. And
Hmm.
the first is conversational AI. People are interacting with our software every day, but it's them clicking buttons and knowing what to do, knowing what to click, filling out fields. And that could be internal people and it could be the account holders as well,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But imagine if they could converse with the product naturally and let the AI assist them and guide them with their work. It's a whole different animal. It opens up a whole new world of being able to communicate with the system through natural language or conversational AI than to have to click through screens and know what screen to go to find this data or have to fill out all these fields. And so the use cases for conversational AI, when we sit down and look at where it could really be effective, there's a multitude of them. And
Right.
that's one kind of prong in our AI approach. Then the next one would be agentic AI, which is kind
Hmm.
of where we're headed next. Where now we're looking at building agents that are trained for specific jobs, and they
Hmm.
can do their work autonomously and independently. And there's a lot of opportunity there, such as roles in the specialty processing areas like bankruptcy and
Mm-hmm.
repossession, where there is work that can be done by an autonomous agent that's specifically trained to do a very specific role inside
Mm-hmm.
those specialty worlds. And then the last I would say is more the data-driven AI.
Mm-hmm.
We're amassing a great deal of data in our cloud that we can use. We have nearly 38 million people in our cloud, over 80 million loans and deposit accounts, and decades of collection history in our data lake. Then we're able to leverage for AI analytics, right? That data is ripe for bringing insights to the forefront, like a propensity to pay model that can more efficiently drive the collection strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So as we looked at how AI can help really take us to the next level and then partner with our customers to make them all that more efficient, those are kind of the three buckets.
That makes a lot of sense. Did you define particular use cases for each of those that you used as kind of demonstrations or proof of concepts? Is because I just had this conversation today with a credit union who's like, we'd like to work with you on AI, and I was like, okay, what do you want to do? And it's like, we want to do AI,
Yeah,
and it's like, not how it starts, right? So
that's
talk a little
right.
bit about how you isolated those early use cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point because you just don't, slap the AI label on and now you're there, you're AI.
Right.
The conversational part had the lowest hanging fruit.
Mm.
When there is repetitive work being done by someone or something that requires, some communication back and forth, the conversational AI piece fits real well in there. And the use cases we started to uncover for that was the early stage delinquency, which coincided with what we did with Virtual Collector. Because these are more basic, repetitive kind of things happening in the early stage delinquency. And that might be the self-servicing that the account holder is doing through Virtual Collector. And it also might be outbound communications,
Right.
like making calls to those delinquent account holders. When I visit customers and I watch their users use the system, it never ceases to amaze me that I could sit there for an hour and watch a collector, and they will make calls and they will dial and dial and dial and then just leave voicemail after voicemail after voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And out of our cloud, with all that data we have, you may or may not be surprised at the actual answer rate of collection calls. What do you think the actual percentage of calls answered are?
Answered by like voicemail
No,
or answered
answered
by
by
a
a
human?
person, by a human.
Having been a collector
You are.
back in the day, I will tell you my bet is it's probably around 18 to 20%.
You are very close. 13%
Oh,
of
there you go.
outbound
See?
calls
Yeah.
actually get answered by someone. Might not
Yeah.
even be a right party contact.
Right.
The remainder of those, 50% of those go to voicemail, and then
Yeah.
37% end up in a bad number, a busy signal, a hang up, something that doesn't even provide an actionable result and doesn't progress the collections process. So if
Right.
humans are doing this work day in and day out, that is a prime opportunity for AI. And so that's one of the use cases that we determined that the technology now with AI, the ability for the large language model to be able to go through a text to voice translation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all now used Chat GPT in that voice mode, and it's like talking
Yeah.
to a human. We're seeing that, and we actually have that integrated into the product where now outbound calls can be made by a virtual collector assistant, and that assistant can leave the message, and you don't have to have your collectors doing that anymore. It's not a
And on
dialer, right? It's not
right.
it's
Okay.
not dialing calls to connect it with a collector.
Right.
It's not an IVR system. It's an actual AI assistant making the call. And then the 13% of the time where the account holder answers the phone, the assistant can actually have the conversation with them about a payment
Wow.
or about a promise or about,
Holy
oh,
cow.
yes, it's amazing. And, we actually have to have it say up front, hi, I'm a virtual assistant with so-and-so financial institution, because it is so real and we don't want to mislead.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an efficiency that is.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Holy cow. Did you is that so that's one use case, right? Assume you had another use case for agentic AI, you had another. Did you build all of this in house? Where did you get the skills to do this? I mean,
Yeah,
so you're clearly a very smart guy. I'm not saying that, right?
it wasn't me.
But like, where did the skills come to be able to do this?
I wish I could code like that, but we got some really smart peeps here at AKUVO. So, some of our architects on the cutting edge of that, they embrace that stuff. And, we'll have to talk about AI, not just in the product, but in the organization too,
Yeah.
and what we're doing at AKUVO, because
Yeah.
that's another snowball effect. But the capabilities and the technologies to leverage these large language models and be able to deploy them and instruct them. Microsoft specifically with their Azure AI Foundry and AI services that we're leveraging, I mean, they have just moved at light speed with bringing tooling and capabilities to not just developers, but non-developers as well, to be able to deploy these applications. And so, it sounds amazing, but at the end of the day, it's still work to be done, obviously, but it's surprising how much little effort you would think compared against what you would think it would take to do that.
Right.
So yeah, the technology
and that's just
and the
one
tooling.
use case. That's just one use case. You're talking about agentic AI, early and late stage as well there.
Yeah, I mean, there's more use cases for conversational AI. Even that's just one channel, the voice.
Right.
But the way we're kind of positioning this is, think about the channels that might be reached out to or inbound. Voice is one of them, but text is another. So today, we send the text out and we put a link in the text to Virtual Collector, which they might tap and end up in there and make a payment. But wouldn't it be amazing if they could just reply to the text and have that same conversation over text as if it were a human on the other side? Because now they're getting to do that on their own time. They can reply, maybe come back to it an hour later. It's an ongoing conversation as opposed to a voice conversation where they have to stop right now and have that whole thing. Or it might be a chat interface in the Virtual Collector portal where they have that same conversation. Or it might be, as we're looking to partner with some of the home banking providers, surface that notification of their delinquency through the home banking app and then allow them to act on it through there. And for those that support the conversation, we have our AI assistant at the center of all these channels, and it really doesn't matter which channel. We're focused on building that assistant and training it and tuning it and making it highly effective for that early stage delinquency.
So talk about your approach a little bit. Did you bring somebody in? Did you train these architects? Did you look at them and just say, release the hounds? I mean, how did you get them, and what kind of guidelines did you put out for them to say, hey guys, or gals, here's the roadmap. Here's how you stay out of the ditch. But other than that, let's go figure this thing out. How did you do that?
Yeah, what we found is it works best when you take it kind of they call it a tiger team or a, kind of like a small group and put them on. That's how we built Virtual Collector. We took, a core team and said, you're going to focus on this, and focus is the key. And that's how we got that product out. And then we're applying the same thing. We applied the same thing with the POC work that we did with AI as well. And we leverage, some third-party assistance as well, bring some expertise to the table. But we still do all this work in-house and run this in Azure. And from a compliance and regulatory and data security perspective, that's really, really important. So we've kept on that path as well.
Talk to me a little bit about testing, right? So are you engaging your internal testing teams? Do you have external testing teams? Do you have volunteer credit union partners who are testing some of these things for you? How do you approach testing these? Because obviously you really want the experience to be tight, right? You want it to deliver a really great experience. So, that a lot of times that comes through iterations of the work. Talk to me about, how do you test something like this?
Yeah, and testing AI is hard, isn't it? Because it's not, it's not deterministic. It's much easier to have a deterministic testing plan where if these inputs, this output. So it's a whole different animal when it comes to testing. And so, the focus, while testing is done by our internal testers, we, as part of some third parties we use as part of our development, they bring testers to the table as well. the real focus kind of shifts towards how do you apply kind of guardrails to the AI so that you can reduce the risk of bias, you can reduce the risk of hallucination. And so some of the things that we look at there is probably one of the biggest things is leveraging RAG, retrieval augmented generation, which basically means, everybody has their collection policies, which has all kinds of key information that their collectors use to guide their collection process. Like, if it's this stage delinquency, I can't take a promise for more than 2 weeks out.
Right.
I won't take a promise for any less than, or I won't take a payment for any less than this percentage of the delinquent amount or balance. Right? These are all rules that their collectors live by. With RAG, we're actually able to take their collection policies, their collection manuals, maybe their hardship options documentation, and inject that context into large language model. So the prompts and the conversation it has with the, over the phone or over the chat is guided by those guardrails so that it can't end up going outside of the policies and procedures that have been set up by the institution. So that's a key part of it, that while testing is key, providing the guardrails to the AI is probably equally important. Then, of course...
No, go ahead. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, I was going to say also human in the loop is another key pillar of testing. Yeah. So everything that we're doing is logged and surfaced for humans to review. So they can review, refine the prompts, make the assistant more accurate, make it better down the road. So there's that constant feedback loop that we implement in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Does the inclusion of those guardrails open up the opportunity to expose those kind of prompts, suggestions to collectors, so that on their side they're benefiting from AI as well?
That's a great question. Some, every institution is maybe in a different place with AI. There's some that are a little bit more risk adverse, some that are a little bit more aggressive. And, for those that are embracing it fully, everything that I've described with the phone call to the account holder, the chat with the account holder through the digital portal, all makes sense. But if you're not quite there yet, but you want to start to leverage the power of that AI, that's another way that we're looking at doing it. So now it's not necessarily an assistant to the member of the account holder. It's an assistant to the collector, but it's the same assistant. And so picture the collector having that phone call with the account holder. If the assistant is able to participate in that and be listening to the conversation, but serving up that same kind of pointers and direction to the collector, now it's helping the collector more quickly get to the solution. And there's some really good use cases for that as well, from a business standpoint, and a reason that AI can be so valuable. And I'll just give you one. How about the situation where someone misses their payment and, either on a phone call or in a chat, the assistant finds that they missed their payment, and it finds out they missed their payment because they were injured and so they weren't able to work. Mm-hmm. And of course, the next goal would be get a payment, get a promise established. But I was talking to one of our customers just the other day, and she said, what happens a lot of time is they get injured, they can't work, but they forgot that years ago when they signed that loan, they also got disability coverage.
Right.
The AI assistant, simultaneous to, working towards that promise or working towards that payment, can also be evaluating that and then suggesting that you have disability. Let me send you an email with all the instructions on how to go get that set up. And that can be offered to the collector as a suggestion in real time while they're working, or directly to the member if you're having the assistant talk directly to them.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic, because so many members do, they purchase the insurance up front and then they forget they have it when they need it. That really is phenomenal.
That's right.
Mark, how do you build an organization on the technical side? How do you build an organization that seeks out innovations like this?
Yeah, that's another great question. That's been a huge topic for me and my team here. Too often the engineer developer mindset is to be trained and instructed on how to, how to build software.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a big push here to change that mindset and empower the team to experiment. So find tools and try them. Work them into what you're doing. We're trying to foster that culture here and adopt that mentality of AI is out there, leverage it, see what you can do with it, and then share that with the team. And it's funny because, there's this lunch and learn that we occasionally have. And it's even to the point where, as an executive team, we said, you know what, we need to not call it lunch and learn, because lunch and learn creates a mentality of I'm coming to be trained. And rather, we're going to call it, we ended up, it's silly, but showcase and share, or share and showcase, right? Because everybody's coming to the table now with here's what I found and here's how it helped me. And let me show you guys. So it's much more of everybody is empowered to do it, to find tools that work for them. It's a recent thing, but it's so exciting to see the development team here really embracing that. And we even created a wiki where they can post to it, hey, I just used Cursor for this, and it just saved me over 40 hours in time. Right. And so it's kind of like, now people get to showcase what they did.
Yeah.
And so that's really become kind of the culture across the board, not just the development team here, but across the entire company. How can you leverage AI to really help you be more efficient?
Yeah, that is a very good observation around kind of the legacy mindset and how much that's changing. And part of it's based on the speed, of course. So are you developing AI skill sets for your existing employees, or is it something is it something you are hiring for?
Yes. So we definitely are now including that. Both is the answer, but we're definitely including that in the hiring process now. And, it's more some of the soft skills, because AI is so new. No one's going to be coming in with, 7 to 9 years of experience with AI. They might say that, but that's not going to be AI as we know it today. And so what we're really looking for is kind of the cognitive skills, the analytical thinking. And so our hiring is starting to get really focused on that type of mindset. But also, is AI part of what they do today? For developers, is it part of what you do every day? Is that how you think? Even if you don't necessarily have our tooling skills, is that your approach towards product development? So it's definitely influenced our hiring. And then internally for our staff, like I said, we are, empowering them with finding tools, asking them to make that part of their day to day, and then tell the rest of the company about it when you find successes.
I'm super intrigued by stories where organizations are using AI on the DevOps side, right, of their business, right? Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are using that inside the Azure cloud?
Yeah, we've started to use some tools right now. The hot tools are, Cursor is it's kind of a co-pilot, if you will, for your coding. We're starting to look at Devin, which is an AI agent, so an autonomous coding agent.
Wow.
I've talked to some companies who have used it, and it's pretty fascinating because you can say, hey, Devin, here's a bug in our Azure DevOps. Take a look at it and create a PR for me. And it will go look at the bug, figure out what it's doing, write the code, and create a pull request for the developer to look at. So that stuff is real out there, and we're really starting to embrace that and find ways. And so the development team, they're using Cursor right now. They're using ChatGPT, and it could be anything from asking it to just write boilerplate code that would have taken maybe 16 hours. It writes it in just a couple of seconds. Even our non-developers, we have some folks who are more on the BA side or even on the management side. Who have asked to get their hands on Cursor and our source code. They have no idea how to write code, but say to it, hey, right. But say to Cursor, hey, can you write me documentation on this core interface that tells me all the mappings and everything, right? And so that would take a developer a lot of time. That allowed a business person to go write documentation right out of the code. So there's lots of different ways inside AKUVO that we're really asking people to think outside the box, just like that.
That's really very cool. What's next on the AI roadmap for AKUVO?
Yeah, so we're looking at adding in that conversational AI and the virtual collector side, and the account holder facing, the collector assistant, and then really continuing to um, train and instruct it to handle more and more, right? Things like the hardship application. And then moving into agentic AI, where now we're creating agents to do very specific work. Example in the bankruptcy world, part of managing bankruptcies is there are dockets that are being published from the court, right? So that's a manually intensive process. You have to review the dockets. You have to determine which of these, what does this mean? There might be important things in here, like a meeting of creditors and other notices. And so that's perfect for an autonomous agent to be looking at that, gleaning action from these dockets, and maybe right now presenting that to a human saying, here's what I recommend. Huge time saver on that. How about repossession, where you build an agent that is at the point of repossession where you need to do product cancellations, is able to determine, all right, who needs contacted, and actually make those calls and outbound calls and do the product cancellation, because that's a compliance and regulatory item. You can't do it too soon. You can't do it too later. You missed the window. Another perfect opportunity. So there's a lot of use cases for agentic AI that we're going to be looking at on the road ahead.
If you were talking to a CTO or a leader in another organization, what advice would you give them about starting to work with AI?
Yeah, I'd say probably the most important thing is, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, don't just start with AI. Don't implement AI to implement AI, right? Start with the real problems and define them, and ensure you have the data for AI to be successful, because AI is only as good as the data. And so that is kind of part of that thought process of, what are my use cases? Where's the pain points? And do I have the data for AI to be successful there, right? Identify the challenges that are repetitive or communication heavy. There's your low-hanging fruit for AI. But then also, don't try and boil the ocean, right? Start small, monitor the outcomes, but just iterate. You don't have to achieve perfection right out of the gate, right? Kind of like we're doing internally. We're just asking our teams to find little ways to make it more efficient. It's a snowball effect. If it's internal to the organization, it will snowball. And then in your products, as you find opportunities for leveraging AI, start with quick wins. That will snowball as well. And you'll be able to see how to continue to push that forward.
I know you guys have a conference coming up. Will you be showcasing some of these new solutions there?
That would be my intent, yes. We'll have a little eye candy for the conference.
And there's one more thing, right?
That's right. I'll put on my black. I am wearing black. I'll put on my black sweater.
There you go. Awesome. Well, listen, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing the experience you guys are really leading with AI. You're doing fantastic work, and I can't wait for credit unions to see the power of what you guys have built.
Yeah. Thanks, Kris. Really excited about it, and I appreciate the time today.
Anytime. I am amazed at what Mark and his team at AKUVO have built and how they've included AI throughout their application. Truly an impressive feat, and it's coming so very quickly. Listen, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please like and subscribe on your platform of choice. We will see you next time.